Hi, everybody. I am Trevor here at Bean Dip. Nope, that's not where I am. Hi, everybody. I'm Trevor. I'm here at Big Bad Dungeon, and I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff that will be helpful for you when Season 2 comes out. Because in Season 2, we are going to be playing a different game from D&D 5th Edition. We're going to be playing a game called Masks. So I'm not going to teach you all how to play Masks. If you want to learn how to play the game, it is my favorite tabletop role-playing game of all time. Go down to your local game shop and buy a copy there, or get them to order one. You can also find some resources on Magpie Games' website. They're the publisher of the game. You can find those online. But definitely support your local game shop if you can. And you can download a bunch of free resources or PDF versions on Magpie Games website. What I am going to teach you is what you need to know for Season 2. So Masks is a game where the players take on the role of teenaged superheroes in a sort of superhero world, something like Metropolis or Gotham City or like the MCU, a world where superheroes exist and supervillains exist and people are in peril that need saving. All of the sort of playbooks is what they're called. The character archetypes you can play are really cool and really unique. The way that they're made for this system, they're not classes like in some like traditional OSR games like D&D 5th Edition or something like that. They are archetypes and they're called playbooks, and they are based on not what you can do, but kind of the struggle of typical teenage superheroes. For example, there's a playbook called The Janus, which is very much like a Spider-Man, young Spider-Man type playbook that involves a lot of balancing real life and superhero life and having two identities. And how do you deal with that as a teenager? There's another awesome playbook called The Nova, which is about having so much power that you're bursting with it, and it like not so subtly relates to uncontrollable emotions and trying to deal with those as you're like growing and changing as a teenager. So it kind of does that. It deals with these sort of teenage struggles that you see in a lot of teenage superhero media, things like Teen Titans or early X-Men and stuff like that. They're all super fun, they're all super unique playbooks, and they all have unique flair and special moves. So that's another cool thing that differentiates this system from a lot of other ones. Like I said, it is powered by the Apocalypse, which is the sort of engine it uses, which is a 2d6 system, so 2d6 dice, the little cubey boys. You roll those, and then you add a relevant modifier to it. It sometimes might be something that subtracts from it, sometimes might be something that adds to it, and then you get a result, and you give the game master person what the result is, and if it's a 0 to a 6, anywhere in that range, then it's called a miss. It's not a fail, it's just a miss. Things don't work out the way you wanted them to. If you roll a 7 to a 9, which is the best place ever to roll, you have like a complicated success. Like, yeah, you kind of do what you're trying to do, but there's some complications mixed in. And then if you roll a 10 or above, you do exactly what you were trying to do and said you do. And sometimes some of the other Powered by the Apocalypse system use this thing called dynamite success. I think it's City of Mists that does that, and some other ones too. If you roll 12 plus, something extra cool happens. I like to use that rule when it's like towards the end, when like there's a lot of chaos and crazy stuff happening. I like to use the like 12 plus rule. If somebody's trying to do something super cool, I let them do it even cooler. Sort of like a critical success a little bit. Everything that you do in the game is super duper duper narrative. And I feel like I'm saying super duper a lot. Looks like Gary Cooper. Everything that you do in the game is really narrative. And this whole system is very narrative driven, and it is based a lot on like player choices. It's a player facing game, meaning the person that's running it doesn't roll dice. Everything that happens is based on what the players are saying and how their dice sort of tell the story and help them tell the story. And there are these things called moves, which I mentioned earlier. Each playbook has special moves that they get to choose from. And then there are basic moves that everybody can do. So what moves are, they sort of take the place of like skills or proficiencies or things like that in other games. They are a set of circumstances and results that apply to a specific situation that is unclear in its outcome that you rolled dice for. So for example, you go to attack a bad guy. Based on how you're doing it, it could be a move called directly engage a threat. So you don't know how it's going to work when you throw a punch. So the GM might be like, oh, that sounds like directly engage a threat, so roll that for me. And then based on the result, there's some things that happen based on the type of move. And then each playbook has special moves that are only for them that allow them to manipulate things differently. Each of the character types, each playbook has, instead of stats, it's called labels, and there are 5 of them. They are Danger, Freak, Savior, Superior, and Mundane. Danger, Freak, Savior, Superior, Mundane. Yeah, 5. The cool thing about this game, you're playing a teenager, so you don't really know who you are yet. So much of what you understand about yourself is influenced by the way others react to you and the things that they tell you you are. Even though you maybe aren't, you're kind of fighting to find your place. So the labels reflect that. So danger is one label, and that is both how dangerous you see yourself, like how much of a badass and how threatening you think you are, but it's also based on how much of that other people tell you you are, like how threatening other people say you are. People say, oh, you're scary, you're dangerous, you're gonna hurt somebody. You start internalizing that. So that's what that label represents. Freak represents how much of an outsider and how weird you are and how powerful you are, right? How much like superhuman extra ability you have that kind of flows out of you and into the world and makes you different. Savior represents how much of like classical hero vibe you embody, like rescuing the innocent and that kind of thing and protecting those around you. And that's also internalized and kind of told to you by society a little bit. And then superior is how much better you think you are than other people, or how much better other people think you are than them, right? It's kind of both sides on that. And then lastly, mundane is how connected you are to your humanity and like the core emotions that make up everyone, not just superpowered people, and how connected you are to the non-superhero world. And the cool thing about these labels is that throughout play, they can shift. Actions that you take can cause them to go up or down, and other players can cause them to go up or down at certain points in the game, specifically end of session moves. So after every session you play, you get to find out how your teammates sort of feel about you or how you feel about yourself. And there are 3 options with that. You can either grow closer to the team. If you pick that option, then you get to decide who on the team you feel like you grew closer to, and that character's player gets to shift one of your labels up and one down based on what they saw you do during the course of that session. You can choose to grow away from the team, which I've actually never seen anybody do very often, but it has happened. And in that case, the way I do it is the GM, me, shifts one of your labels up and one down, based on what I saw you play during that session. And then the last option is the character can grow into their image of themselves a little bit more, becoming the person that they want to be. And in that case, the player gets to decide what label goes up and what label goes down. Now, another cool thing about this system is that there are no hit points. You don't have any kind of measure of harm, damage, or health, or any of that stuff, because this is a game about superheroes, and some of them are... So instead, it has something called conditions. There are 5 conditions, and each one of those causes a penalty to one of the basic moves. So it causes a -2 penalty to one of the basic moves, which are the kind of moves that you're going to be doing most often. The move you use most in this game is called Unleash Your Powers, because it's you trying out your cool, crazy, wild abilities, and teenagers are kind of going to want to do that all the time. And the condition that penalizes that is called hopeless. You get the hopeless condition if something happens in game that causes that to come about. There's something called taking a powerful blow, where you get like wrecked by something physical or emotional that causes you to feel a certain way about yourself depending on how you roll. That's one of the scariest basic moves. And sometimes if you take a hit really, really hard, a condition will be inflicted on you. And if that condition is hopeless, then it gives you a -2 penalty to like unleashing your powers and trying to be powerful, because you feel like nothing that you do is good enough, so it holds you back a little bit. Some of the other conditions, all of the other conditions, there's afraid, angry, guilty, insecure, and hopeless. Those are all of them. And each one affects kind of what you can do in the game. And the way that you clear those conditions is by taking certain specified actions. For example, to clear that hopeless condition that takes away from your ability to be super powerful, you have to fling yourself into easy relief. So that could be anything from like, I'm just gonna binge on a milkshake, to like, you know what, you guys go deal with that. I'm gonna sit down under this sunbeam and bathe in it like a cat. right? It's just you kind of finding the easiest release for whatever's causing you this hopeless situation and doing it without a concern for like anything else that's happening. You're kind of escaping from this situation in a way that might not be the healthiest choice. And that's kind of true for all the conditions. They have different ways to clear them. You can also clear conditions through a basic move called comfort or support, where you're trying to like help out a friend, make them feel better. And depending on how well you roll, both of you or one of you can clear one of your conditions of your choice. Another cool thing about this game is it encourages teamwork. So like the whole way you make your characters is all together as a group, and you decide how your team formed up as a super team with specific questions in your playbooks that you all ask each other and answer, which is really, really neat. It establishes ties from the beginning. And that continues in play with something called team. You have these points that get added to a team pool, and what they are and what they can be used for is they represent how close and clicked you all are. And if somebody rolls some dice and like maybe hits a miss or rolls a 6 or like a 9, they don't quite get a mega success, they don't quite get like a hit between 7 and 9, another teammate can help them out, spend a team from the pool, and it adds +1 to their roll. So that point for point in the team pool can help you achieve something you couldn't before. And the cool thing about it is you can be like, well, how do you help them? And then another player gets to describe an action that they take to help the other player's action that has dice involved. I think it's really neat. It makes it super narrative, and it makes you really rely on your teammates and their characters, and makes you want their help and support throughout storytelling, and makes you work together more, which is awesome. Now there's a lot of other rules. There's something called influence that is a huge mechanic in this game that I don't like to use because I personally feel like it kind of slows stuff down a little bit. Like I'll use it sometimes when it's super important. The basic idea behind it is like you're a teenager, other people can kind of like affect you based on how important you think they are in your life. For example, all the adults in this game all have influence over all the kids. And there's mechanics involved with that, but I kind of like to just go based on the players' reactions and like implement the NPCs' reactions to that, and the players reacting to each other will kind of tell me what needs to happen there. I don't like to throw the influence mechanic in, but it is useful. I just don't like rules. I mean, that same sort of idea happens just organically in play because they're all teenagers and they're all bouncing off each other. And those end of session moves really help with that too, because it makes you think about who your character is and how much other people and what they think affects you, and literally changes what you can do mechanically, but also how you're seeing yourself over time in the game. It's really, really awesome. Another super cool thing about this game that I love so much is unlike other systems, you can kind of do anything, like anything. You are a superhero, and there are suggestions in each playbook of types of powers you can have, but you could really have any type of power you wanted at all, because each playbook is not about the powers that you have. It's about kind of the struggle you go through. Another really interesting playbook is one called The Legacy, which nobody in Season 2 is playing, and the whole point of that character is they're trying to live up to some ideal and following some path or pattern set before them that previously existed. For example, your father was a superhero and you have the same powers and you're trying to live up to that title, right? Or you are Kid Flash trying to live up to all of the Flashes that came before you. You're part of a lineage of superpowered people, and that's the core struggle of the playbook, not what powers you have, but the fact that you have to live up to people who came before you. And that's true of all the playbooks. None of them are restrictive of like the types of powers and cool, wild, interesting stuff that you can do. And that's so freeing and so fun. Villains in this game are also made up of like motivations, and they also have and take conditions, just like the players can, and they react different ways based on those. And they also don't take physical damage sort of the same way. They don't have hit points. They kind of go out when they go out, and that's cool. I like to make fights and things feel epic, and I love when my heroes get creative and do crazy stuff, and when they do that, I'll make crazy stuff happen. And I hope that this kind of gives you all the little pieces you need to know for what I'm about to do, because I'm about to take this game and run it into the ground. I've run this game a lot. Like I said, it's my favorite RPG out there. And if anybody else has run it, you're gonna see how I do it so wrong. And I do it by choice. And I break a lot of the rules. I throw a lot of rules out the window. I do kind of things my own way and interpret things my own way because it's fun for me. And that's the cool thing about this game is you have the freedom to do that and to create house rule things you can do and to disregard some stuff. The game still works awesomely. But if you want to learn how to play it for real or figure out how you want to break it and make your own rules for it, please go buy this game at your local game store or check out Magpie Games, the publisher of the game. Pick up a copy for yourself, grab some friends, make some absolutely flawed and super angsty teenage superhero characters, and have fun in a crazy wild world of laser eyes and heat ray vision guns and teleporting and flying and capes and all that good stuff. And masks. Always masks.